everyone and welcome to the video, and today we're going to be talking about the principles and concept of law by H.L Hart, who had a massive influence on our English legal system. And his name was Herbert Lionel Adolphus Hart. And really his debate with Patrick Devlin, which was about proposals to decriminalise homosexuality in the United Kingdom, is probably where he's most famous for. Devlin argued that the law is a suitable tool to enforce morality, while Hart disagreed. It's interesting about the names of these two. You know, there's Devlin and Hart, and when you think of the name Hart, you think of love, maybe, or I do. And when you think of Devlin, you think of devil. And I'm just wondering if this is all part of a script, because we know that a lot of stuff is scripted today. And was this one of the scripts? Devlin and Hart. Anyway, that's just something to contemplate. I'm just going to go back to Herbert. He was a legal philosopher, one of the most influential legal theorists of the 20th century. Yeah. And he developed the theory of legal positivism, popularised by his book, The Concept of Law. In my law degree, there's a lot of stuff about defining law. This is why I'm on this subject at the moment, because it's all about how do you define law. And there's a little poem in there. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah. Law, says the judge as he looks down his nose, speaking clearly and most severely, law is, as I've told you before, law is, as you know I suppose, law is, but let me explain it once more, law is the law. Well, the issue that I take with their definitions in my law degree is that they don't ever state, and I think that most of these philosophers and influencers, none of them state that the law is God. Because if you think about religions, they're all based on the principles of law, of God having created the laws. And I'm sorry if people aren't liking this sort of Christian look or aspect of thinking, but a lot of our society was created on Christianity, so we have to go down this route regardless of how you feel about it. And I only say that because I used to be an atheist and it really cringed me talking about God, and in particular talking about Jesus. I really felt uneasy at it. But I think that's because I was brought up in a sort of, well, what was claimed to be a Christian household, but it wasn't particularly Christian. So, I think I only attended church 2 or 3 times. But having said that, I don't take my child to church either. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong in that, I don't think. You can have these principles and values and moral values without attending a church, I think. Law was divided by H.L Hart into primary and secondary rules and applied to society. Now this bit's really interesting. Primary rules like those against murder and theft, and sufficient for simple societies to survive. So that's what you'd apply primary rules to, simple societies. And I think simple societies means non-multicultural societies. Additionally, this rule encompasses civil law responsibilities, including tortious duties that are outlined in the law of torts, and I've briefly talked about them in a previous chapter. Oh, gone too far. Secondary laws or rules. Hart noted the importance of formulating supplementary secondary rules for more sophisticated societies, and notice the use of language there, sophisticated societies. That's a manipulative word, by the way, and phrase. These rules grant authority rather than enforce obligations, and Hart classifies them into 3 distinctive types. Rules of adjudication. In simple societies, compliance with the rules is upheld through the application of social pressure. Nevertheless, with the advancement of societies, with the multicultural, liberal societies, the need arises to establish additional mechanisms to apply tolerance to ensure compliance with fundamental regulations. As an example, secondary rules pertain to the allocation of disputes to specific courts, the qualifications of individuals authorised to adjudicate the disputes, and the penalties imposed for violating the primary rules. And then there's rule changes. As societies progress, they must undergo adaptation, more tolerance that means, and establish rules that outline the process for amending primary and secondary rules. Yeah, because you need to keep on changing the goalposts when you're in a liberal society to add more liberalness. Rules of recognition. In a rudimentary community, it is highly probable that every member possesses knowledge of the established regulations. Nevertheless, in a society that has reached a higher level of development, the rules become intricate and plentiful, don't they just? Therefore, it becomes crucial to establish rules of recognition that delineate which rules possess legal authority. How does Hart's theory of rules function in real life scenarios? I'd say that in real life scenarios it's enabling more and more of this liberal society, which really wasn't the basis of England and the Celtic nations. I don't believe it was, although historians who are writing the books, and that includes Hart's wife, who was a historian for the Oxford College. Hart was elected at Oxford and was fellow at University College, Oxford. He did meet his wife there. He married Jennifer Fisher Williams, a civil servant, later a senior civil servant in the Home Office, and Oxford historian at St Anne's College, specialising in history of the police or the law, right? And she was a member of the Communist Party in Great Britain. So she's been writing the law and he's been writing the law. And these two people are, well, he is of Jewish background. His father was a Jewish tailor, his mother of Polish origin, and they arrived in 1907. And I have done a video on this, but he has massive MI5 history. In the 1800s, this country went through a massive industrialisation. They, according to the narrative, found dinosaur bones, which then kind of had a questioning nature. That would bring about a questioning nature over the Bible, because if they're saying that dinosaurs existed for millions of years, then it, and these are the experts, then it makes claims that the Bible is incorrect. So, I mean, these were massive, massive changes. And then they had the lunatic asylums, which I also spoke about in that other video, where they placed the people who were mad. Well, if they just didn't agree, then they could just plant them in these asylum homes, couldn't they? So I think some massive, huge changes went on in the 1800s. These influencers are just that, they're influencers. And we've got to remember that policing is done by consent. So only those people who turn to the police are actually for help, rather than their fellow citizens. They're ensuring that our legal system and our policing system continue. So we are in this massive change going on at the moment, and I don't think it can persist. I think people are going to find that they cannot actually find representation for their arguments. They can find representation for no win, no fee, but no win, no fee is very different in the sense that that's just bringing about arguments to win the case for profit and for monetary awards. But when I went to the court, I made it. Stop it! What I think is really important to think about here is that in the Khazarian Empire, it was mainly run by pale, let's call them, Jews, pale-skinned Jews with, you know, blonde hair, blue eyes as well. And you do see that. You see like the types of Gwyneth Paltrow types who are Jewish. So they will have, in those Muslim societies, they would have been run by not white people, but pale people, pale-skinned people. And then in the UK and possibly in western parts of Europe, there was the class system. So you had the lords of the manors and all of that sort of stuff brought in with the Norman conquest and feudalism, yeah? So to distract from the class system that existed here, they brought in a new group of victims, so that those people were the victims forever, like by default because of their skin colour. And also, you know, those people who had been overruled by pale-skinned Jewish people could then, you know, focus their frustration at us, who were completely unrelated to what was going on in the Khazarian Empire and that history, because we were likely fleeing them as well, or the Anglo-Saxons were. So I just want to go over this again, which is I went over this, the 30 commandments, because it talks about the Torah. Study relevant parts of the Torah and honour the Torah, which is in part within the Old Testament of the Bible. They're the relevant parts, I guess. And know to study non-relevant parts of the Torah, and I've never read the Torah, so I don't know really what's in there, but I looked into the Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, and it does refer after the Talmud is written. So I'm not sure if it's still not finished yet, because it says is written. It refers to the oral law, both in the sense of the Talmud itself and in the sense of continuing dialogue and thought devoted to the scripture in every generation. So this is talking about the Talmud, which is not mentioned in the 30 commandments of Noahide law, but we also know that the Pharisees got rid of 27 of these laws to only to focus on 7, which did include a legal system. In much later writings, it refers to theurgy, or the conjuring of demons and angels by the invocation of their secret names. So Kabbalah is Talmud concentrating, and it's also very much witchcraft, sorcery, superstition, and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's worth bearing in mind, because those who follow the Talmud and mysticism in that sense are not considered Jews under these 30 laws. And maybe it's these 30 laws which we ran by in the period before the Norman conquest, which is why there were no Jews for 1,000 years in the UK or on the UK islands. There were no Jews as we understand Jews to be today. Whether you might say, well, if you're studying parts of the Torah which are in the Old Testament, then you're Jewish. I don't know. I suppose some people may say that. It depends on your interpretation of Jewish, doesn't it, really, I guess. But anyway, that was his, this is what I've been writing up. And that was his primary and secondary rules within the legal system, how he split the law into different principles. And I was writing it up and I just thought I'd go over it. I didn't really actually at that point know his MI5 and Jewish connection. I just recognised Hart and Devlin. And then there's just some checks to see. So Hart's secondary rule for adjudication is exemplified by the SRA Higher Rights of Audience Regulations 2011. So that's basically about solicitors regulation authority. And so it implies that, I remember that comment in the in my law degree. It really stuck out at me because I was thinking, well, that's why so few people self-represent, because it's implied that you need these SRA higher rights in order to be represented in court, but you can always self-represent. And it's just the twisting of language which makes it so frightening. But actually it's very easy, because what you can, I mean, they do say that you're not, that the, you know, leniencies should not be made to the lay person. You know, if you're in the court, then it's believed that you can read and understand the law. But there are masses of laws, and there are lawyers who concentrate on certain specialize in specific areas of law. So if that's going on in real life right now, then clearly it's unfair to ask the layperson to be able to specialize in all areas of the law, and especially at the level of these specialized solicitors and lawyers. So their laws don't even work in practice, which is why I really encourage people to self-represent, because it will show the hypocrisy of their legal system and the failure of it. And that's why I encourage it, because as soon as they've had way too many cases showing the inability and contradictions of their legal system, then it will all have to fall apart, because they will have to take a more humanitarian view if they want to keep their jobs. And this is probably why they want to form it in under an AI system, because then it's very hard to complain. Anyway, we're on a learning curve. I'm going to take a break from the legal system from that perspective in the next video. I'm going to just do a video looking into the UN, and I will start with looking at the 1992 UN Agenda 21, because what I hadn't realised is that it covers biotechnology, even for humans. So it does go back to the UN Agenda 21. Everything goes back to the UN Agenda 21. I think Agenda 2030 is kind of it's a distraction, because I think that's the date that all of UN Agenda 21 should have been put into action. Then UN Agenda 2030 is basically when they know that they are on the that they are winning. So we've got 6 years. I hope people start fighting. I think you're going to have to, but if you don't, this is Revelation 2012. Sorry to go back to the Bible, but if we use common law, does it stem from the Bible? All the cases previous, which are recorded in the Bible, are they used with each season of society, new society? And is that how common law came about? Because it looked back at the behaviours of those in the Bible previous. So I have been contemplating if under the Bible as it is written, are we in Revelation 20? And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. And when I read about the sea, I'm thinking about maritime law and admiral law, which is the law of the sea, which is a false law. And gave up the dead which were in it. And there's something about maritime law being a death law, basically. And death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And when the Bible, with the beginning of the Bible, there are laws, or there are rules, and as I've said previously, the law is God, and God provided rules which were to be followed, and they weren't followed. And so the sea is important, I think, in the Bible, if you're looking at the law, and if you're looking at the Bible as God is law, or law is God. So the sea, in my opinion, is the statute and the overflowing with statute laws and all of that. And it talks a lot in Revelation also about torment. And then at the end of Revelation 20 it says there is no more sea. So I think that that means that the whole system collapses, which would be lovely. But they are judged according to their works, which kind of implies that you're not now judged in accordance to Jesus, or your belief in Jesus, or your following of Christian rules. Whereas when we're thinking about the laws of the Anglo-Saxons and the old Catholics before the infiltration by the Khazarian Empire, then they would have been following their laws based upon their belief in Jesus. Because if you remember, I can't remember what his name is now, but the murderer declared, no, it was the thief, declared their belief in Jesus. The murderer was released. I mean, we keep seeing all these repeating cycles, don't we? We're seeing right now Labour is planning to release criminals early, and they'll probably be the grooming gangs. You know, they'll probably be the ones released, the grooming gang perpetrators. Anyway, I'm just seeing circles and cycles, and it not only goes back to the Bible, but it goes back to the 1800s, it goes back to the Norman conquest, it goes back to the Anglo-Saxons. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm just rereading history, because it was my law degree which really woke me up to my incorrect understanding of history. Prior to my law degree, I'd believed and understood that the World War II was about a land grab, and then I learned in my law degree, and this was many years later, that actually this was an ideological war. I had no idea. So it spurred me on to look into history. That's in itself has led me to the Bible, and I'm seeing a lot of repeats which are in the Bible, which are happening now. So yeah, it's all fascinating. It's interesting to watch and witness anyway. Yeah. Right, well, I'll leave it there. If you like, please like, subscribe, comment and share if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching to the end. Bye.